Every Christmas, my family and I watch Charles Dickens' famous story, A Christmas Carol. In it, you know the story well. You got Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge, crotchety old miser, extremely wealthy, miserable, and spreads his misery to all. And then you have the young Cratchit and his family and Tiny Tim hobbling around, and they're just in dire poverty, mistreated by this Scrooge character, and then he learns valuable lessons. And it was in that spirit where I was really just kind of doing a deep dive into the fact that that story really does represent a lot of real stories that we know of. I know growing up, I noticed that some of the wealthier families that my family and I would run into were some of the most miserable. Whereas, you know, kind of folks that were below that line, you found some extremely happy households, and then you found some people that were extremely poor and they were miserable. And so you could be like miserable and rich, or miserable and poor, or you could be happy and rich and happy and poor. It's like, what was the secret ingredient that led to a healthy home and to a happy individual? Now, where I'm going with this is I want us to do life well, and so that we can actually achieve some semblance of happiness, right? But if you're brutally honest when it comes to happiness, many of you would admit happiness is always elusive. It's like a carrot hanging in front of your nose, and you're almost there if you could just get that job promotion, or you get the pretty girl, or you get your bank account to a certain number, or you upgrade that bum car that you really hate. If you could just get to that next level, you're gonna be happy. You're finally gonna be happy. But you notice happiness is something that happens tomorrow and not today, and you never really catch it. Now, sometimes you get a new toy or something, or you pay off a big bill, and then you're like, yay, I'm happy. But it's so brutally short-lived, and if you just kind of stepped back and you looked at all your days, you may find that you're normally like working yourself to death, and you're beleaguered, and you're tired, and you have happy moments, but perhaps you're not living a happy life. And my hope for us is that we would have some happiness, and even greater than happiness is joy, and that's something I want to get into. But I discovered this. Happiness simply doesn't come with circumstance. It doesn't. We always think it does, and it just kind of, it's amazing how we can get drawn into that trap. But you notice some of the celebrities, the extremely wealthy, the very famous folks that are out there presenting themselves, and you're like, wow, if I could just get to that status, and if I had that great job, and everyone loved me, and I was beautiful. And some of you jump in the comments and call me beautiful. I've got left my beard. I'm feeling self-conscious. My wife thinks it's pretty, and all you bums in the comments are like, grow your beard or I'm leaving. And I get that, but I'm insecure, and so give me some nice love in the comments. Tell me I'm beautiful. But regardless, we think that, like, man, if I could achieve that status, then I'll be happy. But if you take a careful look at the celebrities, a lot of times you notice they're really, really miserable. They're not doing super well. And then you look at the woke mind disease, as Elon Musk could say, the woke mind disease, all of them fall privy to it. And it's just this perpetual ingratitude and anger at the world. They haven't discovered the secret to happiness. But I would say this, happiness is never going to be available to you. You're never going to actually catch up. It's not tomorrow. You think it's tomorrow. If I could just get ahead a little bit, then I'll be happy. Perhaps if I got a big enough bank account and I could finally retire and I could have margaritas on the beach and a perpetual vacation, I'm like, no, you're going to have 1,001 other things that are kind of not going your way, and circumstances shift. Notice in Christmas, you get some time off and you're supposed to be with family, but a lot of times we're so harried and stressed out during the holidays, you just barely make it through, and you're spending, savings, and it's extremely stressful time. Sometimes you go on vacation and you got so many trials and travails there that you feel like you need a vacation after you go on vacation. And so it turns out that really, I think happiness now is just being able to roll with the circumstances in a state of gratitude. Dennis Prager points that out, that if you are not grateful, it's impossible to be happy. And if you are grateful, if you're a grateful person, you're grateful for the relationships in your life, in whatever repair they are. If you're happy with just how life is going in general, you're grateful for what you have, then you can be happy. In fact, if you have a spirit of gratitude, you are going to be happy. If you aren't grateful for where you are and what you have, you will not be happy. Personally, this will probably surprise many of you, I'm not really chasing happiness. I really just try for gratitude and let the chips fall where they may, which is generally happy. I'm a generally happy guy. Most of my days are happy, happy days. And then I have really crappy days sometimes too, where I just want to turn off the lights, crawl in a hole, and binge watch some worthless television show. That's what I want to do sometimes. I'm like, oh, today sucks. I don't want to do this. So I have those days, but generally speaking, I'm a happy guy because I'm a grateful guy. But again, happiness is not the big goal for me. Instead, it's joy. In joy, it's something that's even difficult to define, whereas happiness is a little bit more conscious, joy is a little bit more subconscious. It's like an inner peace. It's like this big safety net of the soul saying, even if things got as horribly bad as they possibly could, I'm okay. And joy isn't something that you can, I think, really manufacture. I'll give you an example. There's this wonderful hero of mine named Corrie ten Boom, and she lived through World War II's Holocaust. So the German Gestapo had found out that Corrie ten Boom and her family were harboring Jews and helping them out, and so they got shipped off to a concentration camp. Worst conditions imaginable. But Corrie ten Boom had smuggled a Bible into a concentration camp. Now that's not going to be able to last because they're searching you and there's not a place to hide anything. However, she was kept in this kind of large dormitory, and that Bible, which was kind of like her lifeline, that was the most precious thing that she owned. She was so grateful for it. She was worried she was going to get found out, and then she may be tortured and killed, and that may cause anybody else that may have been around her to follow suit. And so she was worried about this, and all the while, she's just getting eaten up by fleas. These biting fleas. And so if everything else isn't terrible as it can be, Corrie ten Boom's bed was infested by biting fleas. But Corrie ten Boom believed that she was called to gratitude even for the fleas. And she was, I think she was probably reading somewhere around 1 Thessalonians 5:17, be joyful always, pray without ceasing, and all things give thanks. And I'm like, man, really? But she found that these biting fleas were the only reason the Gestapo wasn't coming in. These prison guards weren't coming into the dormitory to search their stuff. And so it's that allowed her to keep her Bible and be able to be this great encouraging light to the other folks around that were going to their death and in their worst moments of life. She was able to be a light to them. And so while I want you to be happy, I want even something greater for you guys as a fellow warrior poets in society. I want you to actually find joy. I want you to find inner peace. I want you to find deep, deep gratitude. And I think ultimately, of like, lest I hold out some moral deism, I don't think it's found there. I really just do think it is found in the gospel of Jesus Christ, who brings hope where there is no hope and preaches a message of goodwill toward men. In our desperate condition of our unhappy existence, I think God stepped out of heaven, became a man, and showed us a better way, and it's salvation through Jesus. Corrie ten Boom knew that, and if you really want to know where happiness is, where peace is, where joy is, it is found in Jesus. That's it. It's nowhere else. But please understand, I'm not just saying some ethereal, nebulous idea out there, though I am a logical mind, I am critical. This is something that's actually far closer. This is here. This is something I've experienced. This is something I've lived like for years and years, and I don't know how else to tell you it, except you got to experience it yourself. So in light of all this stuff, because we're talking happy, happy stuff, you know, like, happy holidays, guys, and Merry Christmas.